Welcome back to God is Alive. My name is Serena, and here I speak all about what it truly means to have a personal relationship with God. We have faith every day that we'll wake up tomorrow, so I want to start a fire in your heart to stop chasing the temporary things of this world and to put that same faith in God. So let's learn about God and learn to lean on God, because what's the worst that could happen? Welcome back to God is Alive. My name is Serena, and today we're talking about feelings. No, but in all seriousness, feelings are not always the truth. Just because we feel anxious doesn't mean we have any reason to be. Just because we feel ugly doesn't mean that we are. Even if we feel lonely, we might not be. And so in psychology, we actually had to learn, does feelings cause thoughts, or do thoughts cause feelings? And technically, you cannot prove whether or not thoughts cause feelings or feelings cause thoughts in psychology, which is technically a science, because you cannot isolate those variables from each other. But if you ask anyone and you really think about it, it's both. Feelings can affect thoughts, and thoughts can affect feelings. It matters what songs we listen to. It matters what movies we watch. It matters what we think and what we tell ourselves. It can affect us. And I think something that's really common is to feel like God is distant, even when it's not the truth. Before I became a believer, before I even knew God was real, I used to hold on to this opinion that, no one really knows the truth of how we all got here. Everyone believes something different, so I'm just going to believe whatever I want to believe. And that's not true at all. There are people out there that know the truth. It's just, how do you know that what they're saying is the truth? So even back before I even believed in God, it's pretty obvious that we all got here one way, that there is a truth to how life came to be, why things are the way they are. Although we tend to argue about over what it is, there is a singular truth out there. And I was determined to figure it out. I was like, I'm going to be the one to figure it out. Turns out I was not the first. Many people already have, and it's not just me. And I really hope I'm not coming across as cocky right now, but I'm tired of making it sound like, this is what I believe. It's like, no, if you had the experiences that I had, you'd be talking like me too. Wow, the camo is really making it come out in my voice today. Anyways, the reason I say all this is because I've had enough proof in my life, evidence, as you will, stories to share that are undeniable of God's existence. And I'm just going to share with you one story. When I was a junior in high school, I got my very first car. It was a 2004 Ford Explorer. By the way, this was like 2019. And that car did not last very long. And it wasn't because I crashed it. Yeah, I crashed it. I really did. And so I was about to leave for college in 2 months, and I needed a car. And so my mom, being the loving person that she is, had a completely paid off 2011 Hyundai Sonata, and she decided to give it to me. And she bought herself a new car. So I got my brand new car, 2011 Hyundai Sonata, January of 2021. It's kind of irrelevant to the story, but I had moved to the dorms, and then I didn't get accepted to live in the dorms again, so then I moved back home for a semester, and then I got an apartment. So I was moving back to college for the second time, this time moving into an apartment. My very first apartment. Okay, so I was living in my apartment for about 2 months. I had my new car for about 2 months. I had already gotten used to the roads, where I was, where my grocery store was, everything like that. The way my apartment complex was set up was my apartment complex was behind a plaza. So imagine a whole plaza with like gyms and stuff like that and grocery stores. And there was a road behind there that you couldn't see. But if you went behind it and you took that little road, there was my apartment complex. So I was about 5 minutes away from just about everything I needed, my gym and my grocery store. This back road was not very popular, not very used, not a lot of people traveled on it. The only reason you would take that road is to get to either my apartment complex or another one. So one day, I get in my car, and I'm just about to go to the grocery store. Literally less than a 5-minute drive. Down that little road, into the plaza. Bam. The only thing I pass is this other apartment complex right next to me. I mean, it's not even enough time to get through a whole song. So I didn't even put on my music, which is a big thing for me. So I turn out in my apartment complex, and I'm going down this road, and all of a sudden, I heard audibly, "Stop!" And I shiver just even thinking about it now, because I kid you not, it was so real. And it was so loud that all I could do was react to it. I heard "stop," and immediately I just started to brake. I mean, I halted in this back road. No one was around. No one was there. I halted to a complete stop because it was such an alarming voice. It made me react to it. And I halt to a complete stop. And for a split second, not even 1 second, you know how you can think a million things in your head even in like 1 second? For a split second, I thought to myself, why am I stopping? And all of a sudden, this car comes speeding out of that apartment complex I was just about to pass by. They didn't stop at the stop sign. They were going at least 20, 30 miles an hour. They almost ran off the road trying to turn onto this road. And if I didn't stop, I would have gotten T-boned. And it's not just T-boned. That guy would have hit me in my driver's seat head on. And upon telling this story to other friends and family, people have told me, Serena, that could have been a fatal car accident. Like death. We're talking death. And I'm like, really? They're like, yes, death. And I will never forget sitting there, stopped, in the middle of the road, watching that car drive away. He not only saved my car that day, I think he saved my life. No music was on. No one was in my car. That stop was the only time I've ever heard his audible voice. And it was louder than you could imagine. When I was growing up, my mom taught me, when you're in the car and someone is driving, you do not scream because it could cause the driver to react in certain ways, cause them to get into an accident just by them reacting to you. And I always think about how it was so loud and it was so real that I reacted to it and halted as fast as I could. Came to a complete stop in the middle of the road. For a half a second, I was like, what? Why? And watching that driver speed out of there, So what does that tell me? What does that tell me? That tells me that there is an all-knowing being out there watching everyone Wow, the shivers are so real right now. That all-knowing being knew that that car was coming. And that all-knowing being knew that if I did not stop, my whole life could have been turned upside down, either hospitalized. I don't care if it just totaled my car. That would have upside down my life in general. And that's just one story out of countless that I could sit here and tell you. But my point being, even though it may feel like God is not watching you, God is not hearing your prayers, that God does not see you in your situation, or maybe He's not coming through for you, He does. And it's interesting because even Jesus, when He was dying on the cross, said, God, why have you forsaken me? We know that God did not forsake Jesus when Jesus was on the cross. We know that. But in that moment, in the pain, in the hardship, in the suffering, the feeling can become more overwhelming than the truth. And our feelings can cause us to believe something that's not true. Even though we can feel like God is distant, even though we can feel like our prayers are going unanswered, do you know that that's true? There are countless verses in that Bible that will tell you the opposite of that. I will just read one. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. For God has said, I will never leave you. I will never abandon you. Why is this the most emotional podcast I've ever made? Oh my goodness. We can feel like God isn't not there. Sorry. We can feel like God is not there. Even when He is working all around us. Even when He's in the trees, in the breeze. Sorry, Caleb Gordon. We may feel like the weight of our life and our future is on our shoulders, and it's not the truth. We may feel like all of our money problems and our money struggles and government problems and I don't know, I'm going through chronic pain, so my pain, and I'm an emotional person in general, so I find myself getting very caught up in my emotions. I don't know if you can tell with this podcast, but the beautiful thing about God is not our love for Him, our faithfulness to Him, our ability to be sin-free or whatever, our ability to wake up every Sunday on time and go to church. The beautiful thing about God is that no matter how you feel about God, the way He feels about you will never change. It's not like we're ever going to one day do something that ever surprises God. God knows what I'm going to do on the third day after I turn 80, or if I will ever turn 80. You know what I'm saying? There is nothing you can do to surprise God. And I never truly realized how all-knowing He was until that moment. Or until I read the Word and saw all of the connections between thousands of years that just could not have been possible if it was not inspired by God. And I sit here and after experiences like that, I used to beat myself up for almost being so ignorant towards God. Not wanting to get to know God when He is so real. And it's so easy, not easy, but available to us. He does not have to be the God that He is, but it's His character. It's who He is. And it feels like no matter where I am in my life, no matter what I'm going through in my life, he shows up in unimaginable ways, even when I feel like he's not gonna. Even when I hate to say it, doubt him. And I forget where the verse is, but there is a verse in the Bible that talks about God could show you how real he really is and you'll still doubt him. It's not about proof. And honestly, that is so true. That is so true. The second my life goes back to normal after an incident like the whole stop situation, and I start focusing on my life, I start focusing on my problems, I start focusing on my feelings, and it goes back to normal, that doubt can creep in just as easily as if I didn't ever have those experiences. What I'm trying to say here is, please don't be like, oh my goodness, I wish I had those experiences, because then I would never doubt God. I would know for certain that he's real. That's not true either. You can still doubt. The only way I can put it into layman's terms is, it's like telling yourself, yeah, once I have $1,000, I don't know, in my bank account, then I'll be secure. Then I won't have to worry about money or if my car breaks down or whatever. And it's just not the case. You get that $1,000 and you're like, okay, no, now I need $2,000. Now I need more proof. I'm kind of like that. I'm like, all right, God, I know you're real. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty. Give me more. Give me more. You start to get like hungry for more. It's never enough. And if you don't get more, it's like, wait, did that really happen? Did it really, And you could play that game all day. The truth of the matter is, even if you feel like God isn't seeing you where you are, I promise you he does. Because feelings are not always the truth. And so now the goal is, okay, how do I stop my feelings from controlling how I feel? It's a lot easier said than done. You know that whole saying, when girls are hungry, they get hangry, they get angry, rah! And then once they eat, they realize, oh, I'm good now, ha ha ha. I think it starts with awareness. You gotta be aware that this feeling, hunger, causes you to be angry. Same goes for doubt with God, causes you to not trust God, causing you to not want to go to God. It's a cycle, which means if you don't go to God, how are you supposed to trust God and learn about him and then feel faithful? So the next time that you feel a certain way towards God, maybe not even about God, maybe in general you feel sad, you feel mad, you feel angry, before you do the thing, before you start acting on it, before you start letting that feeling decide what you're going to do next, why don't you try breaking the cycle and giving it to him? Placing it at his feet. When I say that, I mean talking to him. The same way I'm talking to you right now, talk just like this to him. And just be honest with them. Be like, you know what? I'm starting to be aware that feelings are not the same as truth. And this is how I feel right now. Is this how I should be feeling right now? Is this good for me? Is this bad for me? Is this beneficial for me? What is the truth in this situation? And I would just lay it at his feet. Give him room to speak, because he might. Because the last thing I want is for you to feel like, well, this is all great and dandy that God is like working in your life or whatever, but he's not in mine. My question for you is that the way you feel, or is that the truth? Food for thought. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast and staying until the very end. It makes my day. Actually, if you're hearing me right now, I'm going to do what the other YouTubers, influencers do. Comment Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. That would make my day. That would absolutely make my day. Nevertheless, today's song of the day is Hallelujah by Forrest Frank. Hallelujah, I'm set free. So yeah, thank you for listening, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next time. Mwah. So now you know more about me, but I want to get to know you too. So if you want, feel free to head on over to Instagram and message me at Serena Speaks Podcast with questions or just anything. Also, I plan to create a website soon to foster a community here and to provide resources just for you. As always, thank you for tuning in, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next time. Mwah.